Okay, this is going to be an introduction to NetLogo video. I've got NetLogo here open, and this is using NetLogo desktop. NetLogo web looks a little different, but it's pretty similar. And if you have questions on how the two relate, feel free to comment, and maybe I'll put together a guide of how just the simple differences between them. But anyway, so I have NetLogo desktop open here, and by default, when you open NetLogo desktop, the three tabs here, the interface, the info, and the code tab are all together, but you can separate the code tab into a new window, which I'm doing here, so that we can see the code and the model at the same time. And I'll also include a link where you can download NetLogo desktop in the description. So to start, down here we have what's known as the command center, and you can type stuff in here like 4 + 5, and it'll do math for you. And we can also create agents in here and do things with patches. In this video, we're just going to focus on turtles, which are the moving type of agents, the default type of moving agents in NetLogo. So if I do create 10, you'll see that some little colored things showed up here in the middle. And now if I ask turtles, these are turtles, to move forward, FD for short, 5, you'll see that these all move forward 5 units. And now I'm going to right click on one of these and inspect this turtle. This opens up a turtle inspector. So this is turtle number 4. That corresponds to this who number here. There's a color which is represented by a number. You can also type in the standard color words and those will get converted to a number. So 105 is blue, 15 is red, etc. And then the X coordinate and Y coordinate are here. So I could change those right here. If I move this to 0, it moves there. And if I change the Y to 0, moves to the origin. By default, the origin is in the middle here, but it can be moved around. And there's some other properties here that a turtle has. So a turtle, by default, has a color, a heading also. This is which direction it's facing. If I change this to 0, it'll face upwards. 90 is a 90-degree turn to the right. And so there's a bunch of default properties here that a turtle has by default. And later we'll see how to give additional properties to turtles in a future video. So this is how you create turtles and move them. And now instead of doing this manually in the command center, you can always try things out here in the command center. But we're going to write a procedure to create some turtles. So almost every NetLogo model has a setup procedure. I'm going to zoom the code in here a little so it's easier to see. And the first thing almost always in the setup procedure is to clear all. So this clears whatever currently exists in the model. And I'll start with that just to show what it does. I'm going to move this over. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to create a button here. And in this commands, I'm going to type setup. And so now clicking this button is now going to run this command. I can do it in the command center. I can run setup. And if I do the up arrow, I get previous command, so I can create some turtles again. Oh, wait, sorry, that's asking turtles. I can... There we go, create 10 turtles, and I could ask them to move forward again. And now if I click setup, they all get cleared. So that clears everything. Now here I'm going to create, let's start with 10 turtles again. And instead of asking, when you create turtles, you can immediately do open bracket to give them some initial commands. So I'm going to ask them to move forward 5, and I'm also going to ask them to turn right 90. And then we normally also reset ticks at the end of setup, which ticks are the time unit in NetLogo. So up here you can see there's nothing showing there, but now when I click setup, we're creating these turtles. They're moving out 10, they're turning right 90, and now tick says 0 because I did reset ticks. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is create, instead of having this be a fixed number 10, I want to make that be an input for the user. So I'm going to right click here again and do a slider. And I'm going to put this up at the top. And I'm going to call it num turtles. And it's going to go from 1 by an increment of, let's say, 10 to 100. And the default value, let's make it 50, right in the middle. So this is now a variable that can be, let's go to make it 0, so it goes by tens. This is a variable which you can access in the command center here. If I type in num turtles, it'll give me whatever value is on that slider. And we can also use it in our code. So instead of doing create 10, now I'm going to do create num turtles. And now when I click setup, I get 50 because I did 50. If I go down to 10, I'll get 10. If I go up to 100, I'll get 100. Okay, and now I'm going to create a Go procedure where we're going to ask our turtles to move forward by a small amount, 0.1, and turn right by 1 degree. And then at the end of this procedure, we're going to tick, which advances the clock by 1. And I'm also going to change this view updates to be on tick so that the view here only gets updated after a tick when all the turtles have done their movement. So I'm going to create another button here, and I'm going to call it Go. And I'm going to make it a forever button. You'll see these little arrows here, and I'm going to disable it until ticks start. So when I click setup and the reset ticks, then it's enabled. If I do clear all down here, which clears everything and gets rid of the ticks, now I can't do it yet. So I have to click setup. And now when I click this, the turtles are moving in a circle because every step, if you imagine yourself in the place of a turtle, you move forward a tiny bit and then turn right by a little bit, and they move around in a circle, but it looks like it's sort of pulsating, which might be a little confusing. And so what I'm going to ask now is I'm going to ask the turtles, I'm doing this in the command center, to do pen down. And now they're going to each draw the path that they're following. I'll speed this up a little bit. And you can maybe see that's what's happening. It's a little hard to see. If we make the forward a little more, let's redo this. Maybe that's a little too much. Let's do 0.15. This pulsing has gotten really big. When you draw the circle, what you can see is each turtle is drawing a circle. Let's ask them to do pen down right at the beginning. But because of the way they're starting at the angle that they're starting, they're each doing a circle that moves around the spot where they started, but they're all intersecting like this, and so we get this interesting pattern. If we move our turtles back up to 100, we'll get a whole bunch of them doing this pulsating pattern. So this is the very basics of NetLogo. One thing that you might want to try on your own is creating another slider for the forward amount and or the turn amount, and then try changing those. Replace these numbers with the slider value and try changing the slider while the turtles move, and see what that does.